Code monkey, get up, get coffee. Code monkey, go to job. Code monkey, have boring meeting with boring manager Rob. Rob say code monkey very diligent, but his output stink. His code not functional or elegant. What do code monkey think? Code monkey think maybe manager wanna write login page himself. Code monkey not say it out loud. Code monkey not crazy, just proud. Code monkey like Fritos. Code monkey like Tab and Mountain Dew. Code monkey very simple man. Big warm fuzzy secret heart. Code monkey like you. Code monkey like you.
What's new, Dino Dudes? It's me, the Media Raptor, and welcome back to another episode of the Media Raptor Reviews. Let's talk about Quentin Tarantino. Not sure if I've reviewed a Quentin Tarantino movie yet on this channel. You should know him from stuff like Pulp Fiction, Inglourious Bastards, Reservoir Dogs, and Django Unchained. Of those, I've seen all of them, except for Reservoir Dogs, which I'm going to do right after I'm done this review. Really good director. From what I've seen, I have not seen a bad movie by him yet, and the worst one I've heard is Death Proof, but haven't seen it, so can't say. Let's talk about his newest one, and his most unique one, to me at least, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. What I mean by unique, it's not the fact that he based it off the Sharon Tate murders or any of that stuff. It's unique because it isn't very Tarantino-ish until the very end. See, Tarantino, for those of you who don't know, is known for a few things. Extremely long movies, extremely violent and graphic movies, and extremely foul-mouthed movies, with characters saying the F-bomb, the N-bomb, and every other word in between, so frequently even Team America World Police would be like, dude, that's a bit much. However, unlike many movies that try and do that, he makes it work. I can't say how, it's just in his writing. Oh, his writing also tends to have a really good mix of character, humor, dark moments, backstory, and just really gripping plots that make you want to see where it goes. So overall, he is one of my favorite directors. If you had to ask me what my top 10 were, he would definitely be on that list. This one, though, clocks in at 2 hours and 49 minutes, so just under 3 hours. There isn't really a whole lot of Tarantino-ness. Now granted, the characters are fantastic, the setting is great, the plot is interesting, but I'm going to have to spoil quite a bit, so spoiler warnings from here on out. If you don't want to know, just know I think this movie was fantastic. If you haven't seen a Tarantino movie, this is a good place to start to see if you like his style. And I'll see you next time. Let's talk about the movie now. It's set during 1968 to about 1969, nice, which is considered to be the golden age of Hollywood. By that, our main character is essentially, well, he was the lead on a very popular TV show, like an Old West cowboy TV show. He's been kind of doing bits and pieces, and now he's coming back to play another character in the movie. His friend Cliff is his stuntman. For a good chunk of this movie, it's just them talking, driving around, filming the movie, getting into fights with some people, picking up hitchhikers. Really, the whole Sharon Tate murder part doesn't actually show up until literally the last 8 minutes. And kind of a spoiler here, Sharon Tate doesn't die. Yeah, this movie is drastically different from what actually happened, because surprisingly, Charles Manson doesn't actually appear in this outside of, I believe, like one scene. And the cult or the family he has, they're portrayed quite differently from what I've read online and seen in documentaries about what they were really like. And the main characters end up killing off all the attackers. It's kind of interesting in a backwards way that Tarantino is taking such a well-known and horrific murder and not decrediting it by saying, nah, don't worry, it's going to make it that she lives. He's just kind of adding his own touch to it. In fact, I think that's kind of what the whole point of the movie is about. 1 second. So our main character, Rick Dalton, played amazingly by Leonardo DiCaprio, by the way, his whole character arc is kind of coming to terms with the fact that he was a really popular actor. People loved him. But as time went on, things changed. And eventually, he has to come to terms with who he is, who he was, and what does he want to be now. And the interesting thing is, his whole thing is he's tired of being the bad guy who ends up losing in the end. However, there's a really important speech early on in the movie talking about how people expect the bad guy to lose because, well, that's just what movies are. More often than not, the good guys usually win. And I think Tarantino was kind of trying to make a commentary, even with, and especially with Tate surviving, about the fact that, yeah, this is a movie. It's not a documentary. I don't believe a good chunk of the things that did happen in this actually happened in real life with Manson and all that. But it's interesting. And it doesn't feel like it's going like, oh, don't worry, Tate, yeah, no, it doesn't discredit, it doesn't glorify. It makes it out that the cultists, or like the crazy people, are clearly the bad guys, and it really makes Sharon Tate a very, very likable character. She's kind of awkward, but very kind and well-meaning. From the word go, she's just very likable. Rick Dalton, he has a few scenes when you're kind of like, okay, this guy's kind of annoying, but it does make sense, though, considering the fact that he's playing the struggling actor, the wash-up. He's essentially playing BoJack Horseman in a way. Cliff Booth is a fantastic character. He reminds me a lot of me and my best friend. He used to be called Rockstar on YouTube. He posted like one video about 9 years ago and then disappeared. So, well, I still know him, like, off YouTube I meant. They have a really good chemistry together, both with the actors and the characters. Their friendship seems genuine, and they're not jerks to each other. They take shots at each other, they make fun of each other, they kick each other when they're down. But more importantly, they stand up for each other, they help each other, and in the end, they die for each other. None of the main characters die. I was actually quite surprised. In total, I think maybe 4 people die in this entire movie. So, the writing is both a really interesting commentary on the, essentially, I guess, the standards and the usual summary of action, I guess you could call it, of how movies go with, good guys are here, beat the bad guy, get an intense, climax, bad guy does a bad thing, bad guy is defeated, happy ending. Now, some might say you shouldn't do that, especially with someone like Charles Manson, and especially considering the fact that he only died a few years ago, I kind of do understand that. But if you take a step back, and I think they made the right choice by not putting Charles Manson in this movie very much. They mention him, and you see him like once, but I think it's actually better that he doesn't show up, because that way there's not the whole, we're kind of ignoring him even though he's here and we have to rewrite him and yada yada yada. Overall, the movie is still fantastic. It's got some great comedy, a really interesting plot, and despite the fact that the pacing is much, much slower than most Tarantino movies, including a lot of rather quiet, just driving around scenes with characters not saying anything, just kind of looking around them, the movie makes it work, and I'm really surprised by that. Part of that has to do with the camera work, and I'll get to that in a minute, but if you haven't seen a Tarantino movie, I would recommend this one to start. It's a very good movie on its own, but you kind of get a style. It also does swear a lot, but it kind of gets his style, the interesting characters, the plot, and only at the end does it finally go, okay, here's some Tarantino-esque violence. And believe me, it is incredibly satisfying. Don't take this out of context, but I don't think I've ever had this much fun watching a teenager get burned alive or having his dick ripped off by a dog. I know that sounds horrible, but they're Charles Manson followers and they're trying to kill people, so they deserved it, I guess. I don't know, they were the bad guys, and the bad guys have to lose. It's Tarantino, it's entertaining, So, yeah, writing is great. Acting is phenomenal, but then again, what do you expect with the cast that we have? Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie surprised me how good she was. Emile Hirsch, Margaret Qualley, like all these actors are just phenomenal. But I do want to give one shout out in particular. Julia Butters. Wait, is that really her last name? No, yeah, Butters. She plays this little girl that Rick meets on the set of the movie. And kid actors in general are usually very hit and miss. She nailed it. She was funny, she was snarky, she was caring, she was emotional. Everything worked, and I loved her character. I really hope this kid gets more roles. She deserves it. If I had to point out a single bad actor, I think the only real bad actor would probably have to be, I don't know, maybe, I think Austin Butler. He played one of the cultist dudes named Tex. He isn't a bad actor by any sense of the word. I just feel like, especially in some of the scenes, he was not as emotional as, like, he didn't have as much emotion as he should have, and then some of the scenes he had way too much. But, yeah, what you gonna do? His character still worked, and he was a darn good actor in it. Just compared to everyone else, he was definitely just ever so slightly out of tone. Something else that made this movie absolutely fantastic is the special effects. Not just the little bits of gore and stuff like that that's to be expected with Tarantino, but the sets, the costumes, the props, everything. It is such a loving send-up to the 60s, the 50s, to the 70s, and it is clear so much time and effort has been put into every detail. From, I kid you not, cereal boxes, to lights, to cars, to clothes, to scarves, to Taco Bell signs. Everything looks exactly as it should. And something else that really helps complement this, I think does kind of help the movie not feel like 100% just nothing, 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 especially with some of the driving scenes, is the music. I don't know a good chunk of these songs, but very much like Guardians of the Galaxy, it kind of seems to be a 60s best of mix. And there were a lot of really good songs in here. So, yeah, the score as well, though. Like to be expected, the score is really good, but the soundtrack is another thing about Tarantino. He picks fantastic songs for his movies. Pulp Fiction, Django Unchained, some of the best soundtracks I've heard in a long while. And this is no exception. Now, I talked about camera work. This is the one other part that might throw some people off. Tarantino has a very unique style. He likes to bend the rule of thirds, he likes to play with focus, he likes to play with angles, he likes to kind of subvert some expectations and film things in unique ways. This leads to many, many, many gorgeous shots, some of the most unique film shoots I've seen in the history of cinema. But I also have met people who say they have a hard time watching when a character is essentially tilted, and yet they're still talking straight to the camera, and the world isn't tilted, but like the camera's tilted for some reason, or how essentially they will be, in the rule of thirds, you're supposed to put interesting stuff like here, 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 and here. He'll put stuff like right here, or right here, or right here. He's a rule breaker. He's very much got his own style, and it's not for everyone. But like I said, this is a good one to start with because it works as a movie on its own. And yeah, if you don't like his camera work, or you don't like his acting, or you don't... No, not the acting, sorry. If you don't like his writing, well, at least you didn't sit through an absolute gore fest with a whole lot of swear words and some stuff I really can't talk about on YouTube. If you can't tell, I can highly, highly, highly recommend Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think it's a solid 3.5 Raptor Claws out of 4. It's just a lot of fun. Is it perfect? No, not many movies are. But the flaws certainly aren't flaws enough that it actually damages the movie. Overall, I had a blast watching this. I would definitely watch it again. I was laughing out loud multiple times. The acting's phenomenal. The costumes make this movie worth it alone. The writing is what you'd expect from Tarantino. This movie's gonna be nominated for Oscars, I'm telling you right now. Probably for writing, camera work, music, sets and costuming, and acting. The girl, Julia Butters, she deserves an Oscar for her acting. I'm just saying. Also, the movies they were filming, I would love to watch those movies. I'm just saying, like, they're just the goofy kind of spaghetti westerns that I wish would make a comeback because, well, it works. And also, as somebody who studies film and has actually been in movies before, I love movies where they're making movies because you see all the behind-the-scenes stuff, like the cranes, the camera crew, the trailers, the actors, the makeup, the sound design and stuff, especially like the 60s stuff. It just makes me happy to see it, and I can't really say why. So with that being said, that's all for this review. So until next time, go watch this movie, and until then, this has been the Media Raptor saying keep cool, and I'll see all you Dino Dudes around. Later!